Welcome to the Travelman Podcast. My name is Ben and I host this cool travel podcast. If you're joining me for the first time, then I say thank you for listening. On today's episode, I'll be joined again by my guest co-host Rob from Trip Hacks DC Podcast, and also Mark Wolters from Wolters World on YouTube to give you an update on coronavirus, aka COVID-19, and also some stuff that's going on in the travel industry. So sit back and enjoy the podcast. Gentlemen.
Hello.
Hey, Ben. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Thanks for joining me, fellas.
No problem.
Is it safe to travel right now, fellas? Probably not.
No, I would say do not travel right now. Right now, the best thing that we can do is just stay home, and which is weird saying it as a travel blogger and vlogger. Hey, we're always about traveling, but right now we all should stay home to help, lower the hump, as they say, or however it's the slow the growth. And so that's our point, to really stay home, stop traveling, and just do what we can to help slow the spread.
Yeah. The answer is no. I don't really think we need to spend too much time on this. It's March 20th, 2020, and no, there's nowhere safe in the world to be traveling to right now.
Well, that's cool. Is everything closed yet in the US, fellas? I see that on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, celebrities and almost everyone is just, they're trying to do their part, trying to normalize the situation as much as possible. I'm guessing that, you got the mass lockouts everywhere. You got tumbleweeds rolling down the streets. Is that kind of how it is in the US and obviously in Europe? Because it's not like that yet in Australia.
I think it kind of depends where you're at. I know I'm in Illinois right now, and our governor just announced that we have a lockdown starting tomorrow. So that means people can basically, you could walk your dog, or you can go to the grocery store and pharmacy, and that's it. So unless you're like medical care or something like that, you're basically at your house till April 7th. So that's what it looks like for us. I mean, I was at the grocery store earlier this week, and there was more people than usual, but everyone was very courteous and friendly and stuff like that. And everybody gave everybody some space. I mean, there was limits, like you could only buy one thing of toilet paper or two things of bread, one thing of eggs. So they didn't have the people, hoarding and stuff like that. So I think, but that's where we live. There's not that many people. We live in a college town, and it's during spring break. And so all the students are gone, and they told the students, look, don't come back for spring break. So, stay home if you can. So it's kind of a different thing than if you're like in LA. Rob, I mean, you probably have you can say what's going on in DC.
Yeah. I mean, there's very few people here, but there's not none. Right. And so that's what I think confuses people a little bit, is that, we're all supposed to be staying home, but that doesn't mean that the stairs of the Lincoln Memorial are completely abandoned. The police are not out in the streets arresting people and throwing them in jail because they were out of their house. Just this evening, it's a very nice day here in DC, and all the gyms are closed. And so every person in the city who likes to exercise is running down the street because that's the only way they're going to exercise at the moment.
I know here in Australia, you can still go to gyms, but now we've got this limit of like a square meter around you, or 4 square meters. It's very strange. I don't know how people can put that in place.
Well, when you're looking at social distancing, I mean, a lot of it's just knowing the control, knowing your own spatial awareness, like, having the patience and time to know that, look, I got to give more than an arm, like my arm's length and your arm's length and a little bit more. That's the space we need to have between each other when you're going there. And I know in Australia, people are really much, it's like in the US, like we're very close. We're like, hey, how's it going? Fist pump, high five, stuff like that. And it's hard for our cultures to be like, hey, wait, you know what? We need to take another step back. And I think I've noticed it like on my street and around town when people are talking, it's like people understand. It's like, look, we're keeping 6 to 8 feet, 2 meters away from each other. Like, hey, how's it going? I love you. You love me. We'll do the air hug from a distance, or like the like hang loose sign or something like that to keep our distance. Yeah,
Mark, I know that Rob's obviously had to close his business down for a little while. But how has the situation affected you and all your travel videos? I know that you had to cancel a trip to, was it the Caribbean?
Yeah, we're going to the Cayman Islands. We're supposed to be there right now. And
right now.
Yeah, so we were supposed to leave last Monday and then come back on this Monday coming up. But things changed so fast. We're like, a week before, we're like, well, maybe. We're like, I don't know if it's a good idea. And then we're like, no way in heck we're going to be going. And that's when, because people are asking us, because our neighbors are coming up and they're like, so we should ask you, should we go or not? I'm like, honestly, I'm going to guess they're going to close the borders and they're going to stop the flights and stuff like this relatively soon. Like, I don't recommend it. And anybody I knew that was like older or had any, they're immunocompromised or anything like don't travel. Like straight, I got a friend of mine, their kid. She's like, is it okay if I go with my kid? I'm like, I don't know. So we're going domestic, but she's immunocompromised. I'm like, hell no. Like, because some people, like, they don't, you tell them no, they're like, yeah, whatever. I've got cousins of mine that travel, and I had to tell them, like, look, when you come back, they were in Mexico and they're coming back, I don't know, tomorrow or something like that. And they're like, look, you cannot go see your mom for 2 weeks. So like, why not? I'm like, because you've been flying, you're going to be going through airports in Chicago, all this kind of stuff. You have to make sure you're okay and give yourself that 14-day window because your mom is 80 years old, and they're like, really? Yeah. I'm like, yeah. And so it's amazing how people still don't know, though we think everyone knows. There's still a lot of people out there that maybe aren't taking it as serious as they should.
That's probably true, Mark. And how do you think the spring breakers will get back into their states or cities and so forth, considering they've taken the time off still?
Well, I think one of the things you're going to see is everyone coming in is going to be recommended to take a 14-day self-quarantine. Places like Illinois, like it's already in it. We have that. But that's one of those things, the spring break ones, because because a lot of people have this idea that, oh, I'm young, I'll be fine. Like, no, the young people get sick too, and they spread too. You got to be careful because it might not be you, it might be grandma, or it might be your neighbor that you have to really think about.
Mark, have you been doing a lot of live chats on YouTube, sir?
Yeah, one of the things we wanted to do, because one, we're not traveling and I don't really feel comfortable putting out like happy-go-lucky travel videos right now. I think people need to be more serious. I mean, we put out a video on, it was literally said, stay home, don't travel, which just sounds weird seeing it from a travel YouTuber, And we put out things on the travel ban. We put all kinds of things out there saying, look, don't travel. It's not the time. You just stay home. And so we've kind of focused on that. And one of the things that happens when you have events like this is, especially if people are getting quarantined, they're not getting a chance to socialize. Like right now, everybody should be texting and calling their parents, calling their friends, writing to them, things like that, to stay in contact, because we're humans, we're social beings, and we want to get out and talk to people. And that's what makes it so hard. And you'll see that, depression is a big thing when you're sitting by yourself in your pajamas every single day, even if you're doing your work, and we need to do something to be social. So we're doing on the Wolters World YouTube channel is every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time in the U.S. and Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time is we're doing live feeds just to talk about travel. We can talk about COVID if you want, but it's more like, what are people doing just to have that sense of community? Because people need that. They need something out there to take their mind off of it. Because if you turn on the news now, I mean, you have all the news basically like, oh, it's the end of the world. I'm like, it's not the end of the world. Okay. First off, it's not the end of the world, people. But the thing is, the news make it seem that way. So everyone's freaking out. Not everyone, but enough that's like, look, sometimes you just need something to take your mind off it. Let's talk about travel. Let's have a little thing. So my wife and I, we had one last night. Or no, Wednesday night we did one, and we actually did one Tuesday night for our patrons and our members and stuff like that. And we just kind of sit down, chillax kind of thing, and just give people a chance to kind of socialize in a way and talk about travel and think about these things to get their minds off of that. And so we're planning on doing this. I mean, basically through April, because I figure, people are going to need these things to be going on for a while. So we said, look, through April, every Tuesday night and Saturday morning, we're going to be doing live feeds just so people have somebody to talk to. And I know on my Professor Wolters channel, it's my business channel because I teach, I'm a marketing professor in my day job. And I actually will be doing 2 or 3 of those a week for my students, just so my students have some kind of connection back to the university. Because I know a lot of them will be going back home. Think about it. And I teach seniors a lot of times. So they're like 4th year, 2nd semester, about to graduate. And I have to move back in with mom and dad. And I have classes and, like my social life isn't there and stuff like that. So trying to do stuff just to kind of build some kind of community, some kind of like socialization for people, just to get out there, just to make it more, some kind of normalcy out there when all the news is bad and, there's no new sports coming and there's no movies coming. There's no movies coming out. It's like, hey, let's do something a little bit different. Let's give people a chance to just be normal.
Well, in regards to the news, I don't know if it was Rob and I that spoke about it last time, but the news is innately negative. And the way they sell papers and get bums on seats is by giving you really negative news. For some reason, the human race is drawn to negativity, absolutely drawn to it. And it really bloody annoys me. Where's all the positivity in the world? We will get through this. COVID-19 is not going to end the world. You know, we're not going to go back to bloody fire and smoke. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one thing we're really trying to keep positive, and that's when a lot of the comments we've had on those live feeds we've started to do is, thank you for the positivity. Like this morning, I put out a video on I'd lost 50 pounds in the last 12 months. It's like 25 kilos for my Australian friends. And the thing was like, look, people need something positive. So we put that out. Tomorrow, we're going to put out a video about, hey, here's some things we can do to be positive. We're going to do a don'ts of quarantine, but in our usual positive light. Like, look, it's not the end of the world. There's things we can do, and don't do this, but do that and stuff like that. So we're trying to put some positive vibes out there, but it's hard to get through. It's kind of like clickbait. People click on clickbait because it works, and scaring people gets people to pay attention. I mean, it's an old market, sex sells, and so does scaring sells. And so that's one of those things. You look, as a marketer, I see this. I'm like, of course you're going to say that, because then people are going to like, wait, is it the end of the world? I have friends of mine that have written, blogs about this. The end of the world. How do I talk to my kids about this? I'm like, it's not the end of the world. Now you're scaring the crap out of your kids for a reason you shouldn't, and it just gets you, because that they're doing that to get the clicks, to get the views. And it's like, look, and someone will have like the scary title, but then they'll have good information in there. I'm like, we need to know this information, because you've not made it seem like it's this horrible, horrible stuff, but it is what it is.
And Rob, how are you doing since we last chatted?
Well, it's only been 1 week since we last chatted. And in
we
that
chat
1
on
week,
WhatsApp every day.
Yeah. on the podcast. So last week we chatted, and I had started processing all the cancellations for the tours that had been coming in. After 6 days, every single tour was canceled and refunded. So it only took 6 days to wipe out all of March, April, and May. And so now I'm closed down. Closed indefinitely. Not sure when we're going to reopen. It happened very quick, but it's sort of a 2-part process. So the first part is the cancellation phase, and that's painful because you're taking money that's in your bank account and you're sending it back, right? Thousands of dollars. And then the second phase is just when nothing happens, right? So today's March 20th, first day of spring, first day of the National Cherry Blossom Festival, had it not been canceled. Normally at this time of year, I'd be out every single day giving a tour. I'd have emails piling up in my inbox. I'd have comments on YouTube. I don't think I've gotten an email in over a week from someone, not even about tours, just about visiting at all. Any kind of question, just nothing. It's just all evaporated.
I'll send you an email later, bud. Hey, I was thinking, can you set up a Patreon? At least if people want to send you a little bit of cash just to get you through this horrible period, then that's better than nothing. Someone that maybe has gone on a tour before and they really loved it, and maybe you can say maybe a couple of bucks here or there, whenever like that. Have you thought about something like that just to help you out a little bit? Because I'm sure people have got big hearts, dude, and maybe this is something that other tour and travel industries can do, small time tour businesses, just to get by for a bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. And the reason is because TripXDC is not a charity. I don't want to ask for charity. I have merchandise. I have an ebook. There are things that you can still buy. I mean, if people want to spend some money, they can. So, and the truth of it is, I know in the tour company universe right now, a lot of people are trying to rally their fans and trying to get them to buy gift cards or merchandise or whatever right now. But to be completely frank, I mean, we've got to think about this globally, right? So I want to help everybody. But the reality is I only have so much money in my bank account. There's only so much I can do. And I'm going to start with the businesses in my own neighborhood that are hurting. I'm going to help those guys out first, because these guys are my neighbors. I live with them. And then after that, I'm going to help out the guys in my city that are hurting. And then like to think about somebody in a whole other part of the world, it's just, it's never going to be the top of anybody's priority list. And I've just accepted that. I know some people are still fighting it, but I think that's just the way that it is in the world right now.
And Rob, do you think that's something that everyone should probably put in place to try and help little businesses around them any way they can?
At this very moment, you just got to help out whoever you can in whatever way you can. And that's just what I'm trying to do right now. I ordered takeout from a restaurant tonight in my neighborhood because I know these guys are getting crushed, and that's really all they've got anymore is the takeout business. And so that's all I can do. That's all I feel like I can do.
Mark, do you want to give any small businesses near you a shout out, bud?
So our favorite little Mexican place, El Patio. I know they're going through tough times anyway, and so we've El Patio. They're my favorite Mexican place. They're like family to us. I went to their kids' quinceañera. Their youngest daughter's quinceañera was there, cute. And so like we're really tight. Like I wear their T-shirts sometimes in my videos, and we filmed at their place before, and they're like family. And I know they're hurting bad. So like the last few times we went before they had to close down, we were just tipping like 200% and stuff like that. Just be like, hey, do what we can. And that's, I mean, the thing is we're lucky because I'm lucky because I have a job that's still around, but I know there's a lot of people that are not going to have jobs after this because the tragedy is the people dying and being sick, but there's another tragedy that's going to come with the economic impact later where there's people that their jobs aren't going to come back. Those businesses aren't going to reopen because they can't survive because they're working on such small margins that, we got to do what we can to help out and know that when this is over, we all need to go back and try to help out these businesses that are still there and get the jobs back. Because it's going to take time. Because even if this thing ends up gone in a few months or whatever, the economic impact will last for years. And that's one thing that how Rob was saying is like you start with your local community and then you go from your neighborhood to your town, to your city, to your state and stuff like that. And you're going to see a lot of those things where people are really focusing. I know for us, we were looking at trying to raise money for our local food bank because the county we live in has one of the highest poverty rates in the state of Illinois. And so we know that we're going to be hit hard with the job losses and the people are going to need even more help. And we're trying to do some stuff, but now with the lockdown, there was not really much we can do to even start helping stuff. So it's tough. It's really tough.
I know when Australia had their recent bushfires, so many people came together, and it was a really cool way that people just, bonded, and we tried to, send money to different charities. So those charities would then help anyone that, lost lives, lost properties, lost animals and pets and so forth. And I think we've got to do the same thing now instead of, getting to a supermarket, stacking up as much stuff as we can, getting 18 million toilet rolls, and just people got to be mindful that everyone needs to share, you know?
Yes, don't hoard toilet paper, and that's the thing is the economic recovery is going to take a long time. And I think a lot of people need to realize that, and they need to think about their spending as well. I mean, I know for us, like Rob was saying about, not asking for Patreons and stuff like that. It's like, people are going to have to make cutbacks, like my wife and I, we've already started like, what are we going to need to cut? Because the YouTube money is gone. Like we're not making, like basically cover the cost for running Wolters World, and that's gone now. And so you're like, okay, so what's the ramification going to be? Like, are we not going to travel? Are we going to do we need all these things? What can we get rid of? Do we, school and things like that. And it's really, people, you really got to think about what's going to happen next. And people are going to have to make some tough choices because a lot of people for a long time, if, we live on credit cards and stuff like that. And, your credit card eventually hits a max and then you're like, wait, what do I do? And so a lot of people are going to be, living off credit cards at 20% Yeah. And it's going to be bad news. So it's the economic thing is what I'm really worried about. Well, I'm worried about the health as well, of course, but there's the economic impact that's coming too.
Yeah. I gave a talk at a podcasting conference last year, and the gist of it was that I said Patreon is probably one of the least recession-proof sources of income that's out there. And we don't know it yet because it didn't exist during the last recession. But when, things hit the fan and families sit down and look at their budget and they say, where can we make cuts? I mean, it's hard to imagine your little Patreon, $10 here, $10 there, getting through when, you're going to struggle to put food on the table or pay your mortgage or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fair point.
So I know we're going to cover some of the industries. I want to make sure we cover them because it's so far reaching at this point. And there's some obvious ones and I think some less obvious ones. The most obvious one to me is the airlines. I mean, these guys have already come out and said that they need a bailout from the government.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, there's a lot of industries because the thing that's going to happen is where do we draw the line on the bailouts or what are going to be the stipulations of the bailouts? That's one of the things you really got to think about because the last bailouts with the banks, when they had people were giving out, bonuses, like, wait a minute, you got a bailout and there's bonuses? Wait, what's going on here? Like hopefully there'll be a little bit more oversight on these than last time. But they're going to need it. But also there's the American people, the Australian people, the European people, the African people, the South American people that like, look, what are we going to do? Because if you're working an hourly job, and I'm thinking about all the people in the town I live in, from all the retail, all the restaurant stuff, all of it's closed. They got nothing. It's like, they're not going to be buying plane tickets. They're not going to be buying, fancy clothes or anything like that. They're going to think about, hey, how do I have money to buy food? And so like the ramifications of it, there's airlines and hotels and tour companies we're talking about, but then it also knocks on like going out to eat. Like at Illinois, we could at least, the restaurants were closed except for takeout, but now everything's closed. It's going to be closed. So what do we need to do for that? That's why I was glad to see that they're talking about, the small business associations getting help as well, not just the big corporation kind of stuff. So, it's the tentacles of this economic impact are going to be felt everywhere.
You don't think, Mark, though, there'd be a mad rush on airline tickets and accommodation for the people that found this period to be okay, monetary wise?
Well, of all the people that have been writing us saying, oh, can I still go to my trip in June, July, August, September? There's still people that are going to want to go. But the thing is, will they have the money to go? Because when you have the stock market that's pulled back a third of its value, even though it's paper, it's computer money, it's on a screen, it's not in your hand, you still feel less rich. And so when you feel less rich, you spend less stuff. It's one of those things like, oh, it's a bad day on the market, we're going to go to McDonald's. It's a good day in the market, we're going to go to Cheesecake Factory. It's like you have this kind of mentality and this link to it. And I think there's going to be people that are going, yes, I want to go travel. And I expect that the travel sites and stuff like that will come back because people want to go. But the thing is will people have the money to go? And so that's where you're going to see, that's where it's going to be interesting to see. Like, where do people go first?
Yeah, that's actually exactly right, because when all those people canceled my tour, almost all of them said, don't worry, we're going to come back in June, September, November, whatever it is. They all said they're coming back. And I should actually write this down in a spreadsheet so I can keep track of how many people actually do come back.
So they've made allowances.
Well, no, it's just they have good intentions, right? Like the day that they canceled, they had every intention of coming back. It's not that they don't want to. It's that Mark is saying, in a few months when the reality sets in, they might say, we just can't swing it. We can't afford this anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I know for us, we're looking at it like, the trips we have for the rest of the year planned out, I'm like, okay, we can afford this one, this other trip. We were going to be going to Switzerland and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know if we can afford going to Switzerland because the price to go there, it's so high. The average daily price of visiting Switzerland is like, man, I can get, one day in Switzerland, I can get 4 days in Italy. You start having to make some choices that way, but then there's the other choices like, hey, you know what? We got to pay for our kids' school. Like, do we have money? Like my kids, our public schools aren't super great where I'm at, so you got to go to private school. Like now it's like, maybe the public schools, maybe we'll have to give them a try. And people are going to have to start making some really serious financial choices.
Yeah, this is true for me personally, because I usually go on vacation in our off season, which is January and February. This year, a month and a half ago, I went to Scotland. It was awesome. I'd love to go back. But I'm thinking to next, January 2021. And I'm like, well, TripHacks DC Tours is going to possibly be in the red by the end of the year. Go from like fairly profitable to I'll be lucky if I make any money this year. So how could I possibly swing a vacation? It just doesn't seem like it's in the cards. And I feel like I'm ahead of people in thinking that. I hope it doesn't come to that. But I think that's the reality is, right now people are well-intentioned. People might very well need a vacation in a few months.
I think we'll all need a vacation in a few months, but hopefully people make the right practical call on it with the financing side. Because I know, because Rob and I have been talking about this for a while. The ramifications long term, being smart about this safety, getting people not to travel, but also the financial side of it. And it's true because I'm looking at it now because usually I do a few trips in early January because I have free time. Because it's when the semester's out before semester goes back in. And I'm already looking like, nope, no, I'm not doing anything. We've got stuff booked for May, June, August, September, October, November. And I'm going to guess the May and June ones will probably be canceled. And and right now that was probably best because the amount of money to spend to make the videos and how long it takes to make that money back on the videos and stuff like that is probably that being canceled is probably a godsend for us financially because it wouldn't have been able to flow it.
So Mark, you've been traveling for a long time. So you've traveled through the 9/11 period. You've traveled through the Great Recession.
Yeah.
And so how does this compare? How does this feel? Because they're both similar in that they were shocks to the system, but they're also very different in the sense that 9/11, the reason people didn't travel after 9/11 is because they felt like it was unsafe, like they were going to be,
there's going to be another attack. Yeah.
So it was very easy. I shouldn't say it was easy. The strategy for getting people to travel was easy. It was you just convince them that they're not going to be personally impacted by a terrorist attack. This is totally different because people are going to be impacted if they travel right now. So, how do you feel like this compares to those two periods?
Well, I remember 9/11. I was in Avignon, France, and a buddy of mine texted me. He's like, "Thank God you're not back home." I'm like, what are you talking about? And I text him he's like, just go to a TV. I'm like, this isn't funny, dude. Like, go to a TV now. And so I go to this bar, and it's an Irish pub in France, and it's all soccer. I'm like, that wasn't funny, dude. He's like, go find a news channel, and the place there wouldn't switch off sports. I'm like, all right. So I go down, I go to this little cafe, and they have it on there, and I see the second plane hit, and I'm like, oh my God. And the thing is, I think the impact in the U.S., it was more impactful in the U.S. and U.S. travel than it was in other parts of the world. It took 2 days before my friends of mine from other countries were sending almost jokes in about 9/11. I'm like, dude, that's not funny. It was much more impactful, more focused on the U.S., where this is global. This is going to affect not just one country's travel, but this is going to affect every country's travel because it's not just focused in one area. And I think that is one thing that, when you look at it, it's not we can make it up by getting these tourists to come back no, it's affecting everybody. So in that respect, it's much more of a global impact than that. And then looking at the Great Recession from 10 years ago, what you saw there, I see that similar. It just didn't happen as quickly because you started seeing fewer people watching and fewer people commenting. And I remember traveling around at that time, wow, there's not a lot of tourists out now, but you didn't necessarily notice it unless you had stocks and you had those kind of things. You still saw some people traveling around, but it wasn't. We're in such a different world now with the cheap airlines and the Airbnbs and things like that. That so many more people are traveling, that the pullback will be so much more because you have so many more people that can travel, that the low cost airlines and stuff has opened up the travel possibility for them. And they're the ones that are going to really be hurt. So that low cost stuff, maybe not the low cost airlines, but the people that didn't have a lot of money when they go travel, they're going to disappear, and you're going to have this huge kind of collapse in on itself. And I wonder what hotel chains will go under, what airlines will go under, it's horrifying when you think of the whole industry and stuff. And they all have been a very different kind of shock to the system economically, culturally, and things like that. I mean, if you look at how 9/11 changed how security is in airports, but then if you look at it in terms of the crash of the Great Recession 10 years ago, that brought in the more abundance of the low cost airlines and stuff like that. This one, who knows? Who knows is it going to be? You're going to have more checks at the border. You're going to have more are you sick? Can you come in? Or yes or no? Because we had things like this before in 2008 or 9 when you had the H1N1 or the bird flu. I can't remember which one it was, which is horrible for me to say because so many people, 500,000 people died around the world. And you had that, but I mean, we were flying through Tanzania last year, and they're they're giving you into Kenya, and they're checking they have the screens up, watching if you've got a temperature or not. And they're checking all these things. And I mean, it's going to scare people from traveling. I mean, if people are getting turned off going to Europe because the idea that we have to, get a visa to go to Europe, the ESTA, how Europeans have coming to the US, that turned people off. This is, I mean, there's more stuff you need to have your yellow vaccine shots to prove you've had them.
Hey, Mark, in relation to 9/11 and the Great Recession.
Yeah.
How long do you reckon it was before the travel industry got back to normal after that period of time? Was it 6 months? Was it a year? Was it even more than that? Because I'm thinking with what's going on now with COVID, it's going to take at least 6 to 12 months before there's any normality.
I mean, you have to decide what you mean by normal. Do you mean at its peak before it crashed? Or do you mean any sense of
after 9/11, after the crash of the Great Recession?
Think there's differences, because I remember after 9/11, there were people that wanted to travel to show the terrorists they didn't win. So you had a different mentality, like, I'm going to travel because I'm going to show them. But like, you're fighting a virus this time. It's not going to go show anything. It has no emotions. It's a virus. It gets anybody. And I think it's got to be to a point where, I mean, I think the impact, it will take longer for this one in terms of everyone to feel back in the place where I feel comfortable to travel. Especially if things go bad and you have the hospital overflow and stuff like that. That's going to be something that is going to take longer, I think, than the other two. Now, the Great Recession one, that took until the stock market came back up and people had enough money to travel again. So it was a few years before, like, I really started to see a lot of tourists. And you saw that the just massive influx of Chinese tourism as well, which is something that we didn't have after 9/11. You didn't have in the Great Recession. You know, you have the point, I think in a few years, there'll be more middle-class Chinese than there will be Americans overall. So you're like, wow. And those middle-class Chinese want to travel and they want to see the world, and God bless them, because they should see the world. It's fantastic that they can go travel and go see it. And so you're starting to see it such a different play out there. That's why you'll see, you know, when on airlines and when you travel around, the menus will be in English and there'll be a Chinese and a German and French and stuff like that. So
this is where it comes down to specific locations will be hurt much more than others. And what I mean is that some places, they rely heavily on international tourists. Italy probably relies pretty heavily on Americans to go over there. In Washington, D.C., we have almost no international tourists. We have 90% of the people who visit here are Americans. And so, you know, the question is, like, people might very well be afraid to fly from Chicago to Rome or Milan. I get that. Will they be equally afraid to fly from Chicago to Washington, D.C.? If not, we might not be as badly hit, you know? But then I think about cities like Orlando, where a ton of the people who go there are from Europe. Are the Europeans going to be afraid to come here? Or, you know, there's a lot of different dynamics. And so I think some places are definitely going to get hit harder than others.
Yeah, I agree with Rob on that one. I think what you'll see is people turning more towards domestic tourism, just like Rob was saying before, help out my neighborhood, help out my city, help out my state, you know, kind of stuff. You're going to see more. I think you'll see more of that. People will be doing more staycations, one, because the financial aspects of it, but also, like, I feel safe, because if something goes wrong, that's what I was telling people for a while. I'm like, look, if you're going to go on this trip and this is stuff's going on, make sure you take enough meds to be stuck there for a while. You know, make sure you're going to have that. Now people are like, well, I don't want to go get stuck someplace, so I'm going to stay someplace closer, because just in case we can still drive home.
So, Mark, personally, does that mean that your family's going to do more American cities do you think you're going to switch from big international halfway around the world trips to places where you can fly in an hour?
Well, I know the things that we're going to do personally. We want to help out the places around the world that are most impacted by this. When it's safe to go travel these places again, we're going to go back to Italy. We're going to go back to China and try to say, look, it's okay to travel again, to show that, look, it's okay. You know, to give that comfort, because we're always honest with people. We're not going to go back if it's not safe. You know, people are always laughing at us like, oh, like, why don't you do that? I'm like, because I'm not going to go to North Korea. You know, I'm not going to go to Iran. I'm not going to go to these places. I have a family. I have people I got to care about. I take care of my, you know, I got to think more than just about myself and views on YouTube. I got to think about my family as well. So, like, I always make sure when we fly, if the plane is going to go anywhere near a war zone, I'm like, look, I'm not flying over a war zone. You know, and I know it's very unlikely these things are going to happen, but it's not like they haven't happened before, you know? And so you have to think about that. Look it up. I mean, people go search online for these kind of things that happen. So we're really, you know, I'm thinking like that, but we're going to go around the world and we're going to stick to that. But I know, for example, this summer, let's say things calm down. Okay, let's say, okay, we can travel domestically. I'm going to guess there'll still be restrictions going abroad and stuff like that. You know, so maybe if it's okay in July, well, our May and June trips have already been canceled. So we're still going to we'll travel. We'll probably do stuff around the U.S., probably do about the Midwest, try to help businesses, like Rob said, around us build up first, and then we'll still do our international travel as well, because we have friends. I mean, I've lived in 10 countries around the world, in 10 cities I considered home, and I'm like, I want to help Lisbon back. I want to help get Vicenza back. I mean, I have my heart there. You know, I want to go back to Berlin, get the tourists back there. I want to go to Beijing, where I was, and get people back. So it's a really tough thing. But I think in general, I think you'll see more domestic stuff because of the finances, but also the people's perceived safety of being close to home. Because, I mean, I know for us, in terms of when we talk to people when they travel, they're like, well, I've never traveled abroad before. Why? Well, I'm worried. I'm scared. You know, there's the fear of just not knowing the language. that stop people from and then when there's a theoretical real fear of like being stuck somewhere, the stories that people are going to share about these things when it comes out later on, like, oh, here was my story stuck at O'Hare forever. Here was my story stuck in Poland. We have fans that are writing us like, hey, I'm stuck in Poland right now. I'm trying to figure out how to get out because there's no direct flights and I can't get out and they've closed the borders. And I'm like, God bless you. You're my thoughts and prayers. I don't know what to tell you.
If you're stuck in Poland sorry, Mark, I was just going to say, if anyone's stuck overseas and they've got a great story to tell, you know where to come. Just email me at travelmanpodcast@gmail.com and I will get you on the podcast so you can tell me your lovely story. Sorry, Mark, back to you, sir.
No, that's okay. I mean, we've talked to some of our friends in Italy about that.
I think there might be some travel vloggers, influencers who are in that exact situation right now. So you may have some potential guests in the future, Ben.
Yeah, because there's some ones I specifically know who are still putting out their travel videos, but they've been quarantined in different countries, but they're still putting out their stuff and not really saying anything about it. And I'm like, might want to get on that because it's going to look kind of weird if you're like, oh, hey, this is 6 weeks ago when we were quarantined. I'm like, you probably need to tell people. Like, my wife just put together a blog about our first week in self-quarantine and the ups and downs and, like, our 13-year-old who got upset is like, I can't go see my friends. Like, no, you can't go see your friends. Like, why not? I'm like, because I can't trust you not to like hug and give high fives and stuff like that. Like, and he was really upset. And my youngest he had a breakdown the other day, and it wasn't because he was tired. It's because he's like, their normalities changed. And so she's putting these things out to share, like, look, here's other people's stories that they're going through. And part of the, just knowing that you're not alone or your story is not the only story. That's one thing we're doing. That's why we're doing like at the live feeds. Like, look, you're not the only one that's locked down. Like tomorrow we're like, hey, it's it's our lockdown special, so just to give people some kind of normalcy.
So there's a lot of people who now travel the world, and that's their job. They make videos, they travel places. Mark, I know it's not your full-time job. You have a full-time job, professor. Mm-hmm. But, I know people used to always say things like, I can't believe I can do this for my job. This is unbelievable. And it always, to me, was unbelievable. Like, it was not actually believable. And I think that the day of reckoning's possibly going to come now, because when you can't travel, you can't make the videos, and when you can't make the videos, you can't make the money. So, I mean, Mark, where do you see these people going from here?
Well, I know for us, like, I film many videos when I go abroad. I have probably 100 and some odd don'ts, shocks, love and hate videos I still need to put out. Plus about 400 videos of 10 fun facts about different countries that I've actually never even started that series. I've been filming it for 7 years and just never like started that one. So like for us, I'm not worried, but like I see other ones. I know that they're getting to that point. Like some of them are like, they're putting out their latest video and it's like, hey, there's one group I really like, Flying the Nest. There's this cute couple from Australia. And, they're like, hey, she's pregnant now. And they're like, okay, we're coming where it started 5 years ago. Now we're going to take a break. And there's this viruses going around. So we're kind of worried. I'm like, man, you must have filmed that about 3 weeks ago. And you're like, like they have no more content. And then, you have other ones that are going to get stuck. And, that's just that you're not giving content. Now, no one's watching travel videos right now anyway. So it's not like they're losing out. It's not like they're missing out on anything. It's when it starts up again, when people can travel, if you have the money, because I know our numbers are down huge. Like, like from what I thought we would have in March to now, we're down like 80%. It says like, oh, we're down like 30% from last month. No, last month I could see when the people stopped watching videos is around Valentine's Day is when the drop started on my channel. When I started seeing, it's like, oh, that's where it was. Cause we had our biggest January by 30%. That we've ever had before. I'm like, this is going to be a crazy year. Awesome. And then I saw that's when I saw the 14th started going down. I'm like, that's weird. Usually weekends are popular for travel videos. And it just has gone down ever since, to the point that now we used to get more videos, 8 or 9 years ago than we are now.
Yeah, no, I think everybody who's published their numbers on this has said something similar. So I know our friend Chris Rainey, he did a live stream a week and a half ago and said his views are down 50%. And that was a week and a half ago. So it could be even more now. I don't know if he's given an update on that.
This week for us, I mean, we were down 50% last week, and now we're down another 50% this week. Like, it's like this week is when it really, people are just like done. Like, I don't even want to see travel. I don't want to think travel. And I've talked to people about this today. I mean, I've had friends call me up asking me, like, hey, how are you doing? Because your channel must be dead. Or they're like, oh, it must be blowing up because people can't travel. Like, no, it's when people can't travel because of things like this, they don't want to think about travel. Like, they're not looking at anything. And so there's a lot of travel bloggers, I think, out there that, you know, they live off sponsorship and the ad revenue and they don't have anything else. And I worry for them because they're not going to make it, because those companies are not going to come back and start advertising and start throwing around sponsorship money and influencer money like they were before, because you have had no business for 3 months and everyone canceled everything. There's no money there to throw out at these people.
Paid ads are the first thing I cut in my own business. And I think that's true for most businesses, because that's the easiest one to cut, because it's the one where you don't have to lay off your own employee, right?
Exactly.
You just cut off the company that was doing the ad. And yeah, it's crazy how down the numbers are. You know, mine are cyclical. They follow a pattern. In the spring, they go up, then they dip a little bit. And in the summer, they go up. They peak right around July 4th. And so this would be around the time of the year where they'd be peaking for Spring Break and Cherry Blossom Festival. And they're down so low that I had to go back to 2017, which was the year I started the channel, to find a similar few days. Just nobody's watching. And I think that what you said is exactly right. It's really driving me nuts, Mark, that I'm in some of these Facebook groups for YouTubers, and people keep saying things like, it's a great opportunity. Everybody's stuck indoors. Everybody's bored. It's like, no, people aren't. People are stressed out. They're not indoors bored. They're indoors watching their kids, trying to get their kids educated. Yeah. And they're not watching YouTube travel videos, fun, happy backflip off a waterfall videos.
Yeah. Well, some of them still are. Some of those channels are still. But no, you're right. You're right, because the thing is you're going to see people looking more for escape. They're going to be wanting new content. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped The Mandalorian a month early or something like that. You know, the new seasons, like get something out there for people to have something to watch. And that's why you're seeing some of these studios, instead of putting the movie out, like it was been out, like, you know, they're going to put it on video on demand, you know, next week instead, because, hey, what's the point? I mean, Rise of Skywalker, they put on video demand early because, like, look, people are stuck at home. They brought Frozen 2 onto Disney Plus 3 months early because they're like, look, the people are stuck here. We got to have some kind of entertainment for them. And when sports is gone, which is, yeah, for a lot of people, that's their only entertainment. You know, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, I mean, they live for football. It's NFL or nothing. Like, we went and visited them and like, hey, you know what? You got a little kid. We'll babysit her, my niece. We'll babysit. You guys can have a whole day together. They went to the bar and watched football from like 10 o'clock in the morning till midnight. And I'm like, hey, God bless you. That's what you like. But that's what they live for. And there's people that this is gone for them. And there's like, what other entertainment is there? And so eventually people will start watching. I mean, the numbers will come back a little bit, but they're not going to come back to where they like there was no problem. But they'll come back a little bit in a few weeks when people start to get back into their kind of normal routines. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be they're going to release, like, give me fantasy, give me comedy, give me something. So I'm not thinking about, I can't go outside for 17 days from tomorrow on, you know?
Yeah. Once it actually looks like you can travel to fill in the blank place, people will start watching videos about that place again. But some places it's going to be a lot longer than other places. Yeah,
like someone was talking to this, like what like we had actually quite a few people write us, and they're like, so when this is over, what's the first place I should go to, because it's going to get super packed there right away? Like what's the one?
It's a good topic.
I'm like, well, any place that's super popular all the time, they'll be the ones to come back the soonest. Vegas, Paris, London, they'll be back to normal in relatively short order. So if you want to see those, that'd be the first place. But the place you're going to have really to all to yourself are those secondary and tertiary destinations. You know, it's not going to Munich, it's going to Bamberg. It's not going to London, it's going to Bath. It's not going to Paris, it's going to, you know, Bordeaux. Like those places are going to take longer for people to start going, because you started having people exploring out more and more. And that's one of the great things about all these travel bloggers out there, because now you can find a video on every little place around the world. Now, not necessarily a good video, but at least find something out there, you know, and you're like, hey, there's something out there. And you're not going to have that new content, because these people, I mean, that's one of the things, the YouTubers that are out there, they're excited to do it. And also I wonder, since the stock market's pulled back 33%, how many people that are starting their YouTube journey are, you know, it's their mom or dad that's footing the bill, you know, like, because I've seen this where it's, you have a lot of, like, there's a lot of new travel bloggers that'll come out in that early 20s range, and they'll make it about 25. And then it's like they quit, and I'm like, well, they were starting to grow, but it was almost like, well, someone cut the purse strings, you know?
Yeah, there actually have been a few that were very open about their finances, and I followed along very curiously. And from what I could tell, the way that they made it work was by basically spending every penny that they earned, at least for the first however long. And to me, that's not a wise financial situation to be in. Now, of course, I suppose if your career is traveling around the world and making videos, maybe that's the price you pay for it, not having a job with a 401k where you're actually, saving for your retirement. But I think that the sponsorships are all going to go away. The ad money is all going to dry up, and it's going to be a rough go, at least for a while. And I have no clue how people are going to come out on the other end.
I think the ones that will come out on the other end are the ones that have a day job, like I have a day job, so I can do that. And so I'll still make my videos and we'll still do some traveling, but it's not going to be as extravagant. All the people that write me, that get mad at us for not going to certain destinations. I'm like, if you want to shell out, we really want to go to Bhutan, but Bhutan is like $500 a day for a visa per person. I'm like, if you want to shell out $2,000 per day for us just to be there, let alone doing a tour, I'm like, I would love to go there. Jocelyn's, now that we've gone to Rwanda, it's her number one place. I'm like, we got to save up for a while for that one, and even a channel like ours, we do very well, but we don't take any sponsorships. Well, we would, but no companies want to work with us because we're always very honest and they just want someone that's going to parrot their little speech, which is funny. It's a whole other thing when you see people that you're like, you got sponsored for this, because they use the same verbiage, because the companies will send them like, make sure you say this, this, and this. And you're like, you got that thing. I know exactly.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed that.
Yeah, no, I see it all the time. I'm like, you got this for free. I'm like, I see you didn't put the hashtag sponsor or hashtag ad or anything on there. Gotcha. I'm like, so we've talked to companies before. I'm like, look, I'd love to work with you. We had ones that we love. Like, I use your product. We're going to send you. I'm like, I already have it. You don't even need to send me one. I love it. No problem whatsoever. And they're like, oh, well, make your video, make your blog, then send it to us and we'll tell you what to change. I'm like, no, you want a commercial. You don't want a review. And so they're like, no, we don't want to work with you now. And so in that respect, like just living off the YouTube ads, basically we were breaking even. Now we make a little bit of money. I'm paying. I got to write a check to Uncle Sam here, next month. But
you got till July 15th now, Mark.
Yeah, but the state of Illinois, we still have to file by April 15th. So I need to know what I have to pay in order to let the state of Illinois know, because I still have to pay the state of Illinois. Maybe they'll push that back till July 15th. I hope. So yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I think, and I don't think it's just going to be travel YouTubers, because the thing is, the sponsorships are going to dry up for a lot of people, because it's not just travel stuff. It's going to be anything from competitive eating to pranks to all kinds of stuff. The company just doesn't have the money because people aren't going to be spending it. So there's going to be all this other ramification out there for that.
Yeah. No, I know I was trying to study podcast sponsors last year, because if you looked at who the biggest sponsors were, you look at your Casper mattress, your Blue Apron. These are companies that don't make money. They don't. Yeah. They bleed money.
Yeah, they're spending venture. They're spending venture capitalist money. And I mean, there's actually I was reading an article the other day, and it's like, actually some of these companies they're doing better now that they have no clients, because they're losing money on every single client. Because they're just burning venture capitalist money. It's like, hey, it's not our money. The venture capitalists sent it to us. We'll make it up that way. And you're like, what the heck? And I know, I think we've talked about this too, Rob. And you're just like, they have the extra cash, so they're just going to throw it now. Like, hey, we're not selling things, so we're not losing any money. Great.
Yeah. In the travel industry, there are these online travel agencies. We call them OTAs. Yeah. The big ones are TripAdvisor, Expedia, and Get Your Guide. And TripAdvisor, they're a whole other thing. They've got lots of financial problems, but Get Your Guide is like the up and coming star, the unicorn, the Uber, whatever, the WeWork. Everybody thinks they're the golden boy, and they're the same thing. They lose money on every single sale because they spend a fortune on ads, advertising on Google and Facebook and everywhere else, so that when they earn their $5 commission, they spent $15. I'm making these numbers up, but you know what I mean. And so, we're all kind of like, well, what's going to happen now? Because if they're not making any sales right now, which they're not going to go out of business, because they're still sitting on a pile of SoftBank cash. Yeah. And we have no clue what's going to come out of it.
Yeah. It's interesting to see. And the thing is that those venture capitalists, they're hurting too. So they're probably not going to be pumping too much money in there. And anybody that's used Facebook ads or YouTube ads know that you're not getting a lot of bang for your buck, like in terms of how many people you're reaching and stuff. That they're expensive. Yeah. I get my smaller channel. I'll get a thing of, oh, you could reach 500 people for $50. I'm like, why the heck would I spend $10 per person to watch one video? You're like, that's not worth it. Like it's not worth it.
Yeah, no, you've got to have some sale at the other end. For me, to reach that many people, if I could sell 2 tour tickets, it might be worth it. Yeah. It's still really hard to sell 2 tour tickets from a Facebook ad. It's much more complicated than you would think. But for you, just to watch a video, there's no way that'll ever be worth it.
Yeah, see, it was your fantastic YouTube videos that got me to contact you and hire you as a guide.
Of course, that's usually
you just keep making that good content, Rob, and.
I have some interesting metrics because, before this all happened, I knew that for every 5,000 YouTube video views, I could expect to sell 1 private tour. And that has a dollar value attached to it. So there's a direct correlation between views and, income. And so I have an incentive to get as many views as possible. Yeah. Now I have no income, right? And so it's like completely flipped on its head. It's going to take me forever to get up to 5,000 views. And even then, I'm probably still not going to make the sale because it's all going to, have to average out eventually. But so those numbers are all out the window now.
Very interesting.
So I know we covered sports earlier. I want to talk about the one that is still outstanding, and it's an important one for travel. It's the Olympics, the Summer Olympics. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it probably will be put on hold or just, maybe put on hold. I don't know how you can go ahead with it because of all the social distancing and so forth. You're not going to have crowds. And I know with the AFL that's currently being played at the moment in Australia, our domestic football league, that's being played behind closed doors. And it just looks weird on the television. It looks weird. So it doesn't look right. And I don't know how they can push on with the competition.
The only thing I would say is I also feel that they should postpone it. I mean, you don't need to cancel it, postpone it, for the next year, for 2021, the kind of stuff. But the thing is I think one of the things you got to think about is even if they do the Olympics and there's not a crowd there, but you don't really think of the crowd when you watch gymnastics. You don't really think of the crowd when you watch fencing. It's like you think about basketball or football or soccer or whatever, but in these smaller sports, you might not necessarily see the crowd or it might not be as big of a thing. But they also probably are thinking about what about the ad revenue. I mean, think about this now. The first live sporting event in the entire world for 4 months? All of a sudden, this is the only sporting event that people have. People will be salivating for this. It'll be the most watched Olympics ever.
Spoken like a true marketing professor.
Like a true marketing person. You got to be licking your shop. This is the Super Bowl times 7 billion. You're like, oh my gosh. But I don't think, I agree with you, Ben. I don't think they'll do it. I think eventually we'll get postponed.
Yeah, it just hasn't been announced yet. I think they're still trying to figure out how they can push it forward or, get it going. But I don't think you can. They're trying to fly, I think, athletes on chartered airlines so they don't mix with, obviously, the public.
But then how do you know if an athlete has it or not, so?
They're going to mix eventually. They're going to mix eventually when they get there. It's an impossible task.
Yeah, the Olympic Village. Just search Olympic Village stories and you'll see there's a lot of mixing going on.
Yeah, I'm pretty blown away that they haven't canceled it yet or postponed it yet. Mark, you make your point from your marketing perspective. I studied economics when I was in college, and the amount of money that these cities, the host cities, spend on these things are astronomical. When they were doing the most recent round of city proposals, Washington, D.C. was in the mix. I was highly opposed to it for many reasons, but it's just not a good deal for cities, even in the best case scenario. And then in the scenario where you've spent billions of dollars and then you get nothing, that would be devastating. So I understand why they're so reluctant to make the call. But at this point, on March 20th, 2020, it seems like there's no way they can go ahead and they just need to make the call.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. How are you going to get any of the fans to any of the arenas? No one's going to fly to Japan to sit in the crowds. You're going to probably have just a small amount of Japanese people if they can get there. Who knows? Yeah, there's really no point to put it on now. I reckon put it on in 2021, just like what they're going to probably do with the European Championships.
Yeah.
The football championship. So, yeah, they're going to have to do that too.
So where do we go from here?
Drink more Bordeaux wine. Here? That's where you go. You go and open up a nice bottle of Bordeaux and you drink it.
Yes, I think one, you don't go anywhere. We stay home until for the next month or two. Basically, you're going to be home to help get this under control. And then we can reevaluate what's going to happen. Because you know what? Eventually, we will get through this. People will travel again. People will be going to sporting events again. Hopefully, this will help us all appreciate the things that we have even more, the communities we have, the people in our lives. And that's how we go forward. And then we start to realize, you know what? Some of these things aren't as important as we thought they were. I mean, that's one thing I've enjoyed is the focus more on, scientists that actually have information about this stuff and people that know what they're talking about versus, people that don't know what they're talking about. So, you got to start thinking about some of the positives, think on the bright side kind of stuff, but just staying positive with this. That's when it's going to get us going forward. And I think that's one thing I think we all need to think about.
Yeah. And you know what I can't wait for is to actually get away to Bali. I've been thinking about it every day and I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to arrive at Denpasar airport. I'm going to get off the plane. I'm going to have a hard time trying to get a taxi and trying to make sure I can only get to, my destination for like 200. What is it? I forget the type of currency Bali has, rupiah or something like that. But I just can't wait to travel again. And I'm reading travel books. I'm not really looking at travel videos either on YouTube. I've stopped looking at travel YouTube videos. Just like you guys were talking about earlier. Yes, I'm not looking at any of Wolters World. What's Wolters World? I'm not doing any DC, Trip Hacks DC. I am looking at Travelman Podcast stats, and that has grown by 15%. Not. So, yeah, I would say that anyone that, is excited about travel can still kind of enjoy travel, but you have to do it in another medium. Obviously, if you don't want to watch travel videos, there's plenty of different travel books that you can read. Different authors have written travel books. If you like, I can see if I can get a list of my favorite travel books. And I think that's a really good way about it. But people just got to, rest, take it easy, and just ride it out. This is like this never-ending wave that just won't, crash, So it's just ride it for now. We're not all going to die. This isn't Armageddon. We will be back on our lounges, near resorts, whatever you like to do, skiing, snowboarding, swimming in oceans. We'll be doing that again. Don't worry about it. Between me, Rob, Mark, and other travel YouTubers, we will guarantee. Are we guaranteeing this, boys?
Can't guarantee anything in life, man. Can't guarantee anything in life.
Only one of three of us is guaranteeing anything.
You guarantee.
Well, Ben from Travelman Podcast and friends, we're guaranteeing that Ben will one day go back and swim in some water. How about that, boys?
All right, I can do that. I
can you do that for me?
I'll be swimming in the water again one day too.
You know what else I can guarantee? That later on tonight when I visit my brother-in-law, I'll probably be drinking a lot of Shiraz. That's what you do in these times. You drink alcohol. Maybe not everyone's like me, but I like to drink.
It's all good, man. We all have our ways to cope, my friend. We all have a ways to cope. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
No, you're right. What? Anything else you want to chat about, boys?
Hey, I just wish everybody be safe. Stay home. We can all get through this together. We're all fighting this thing together as well.
Absolutely.
Just stay positive. Okay. Turn off the social media. Just follow the CDC or the WHO. Get real information. Don't let things freak you out because we'll all get through. We'll get through.
And start watching travel videos again as soon as you feel the urge.
And if anyone likes this type of setup, if you like Rob, Mark, and myself chatting every now and then, we'll try and do more of these in the future. Don't know how often or frequent they will be because I've still got some, podcasts that I need to bring out, but I really do enjoy chatting with Rob and Mark. And Rob and Mark, maybe start with you, Rob, and then go with Mark. What's the best way for people to contact you, Rob?
TripHacksDC.com, YouTube.com/TripHacksDC.
Beautiful. And Mark?
So if you want to see some of our travel videos from around the world, go in the don'ts, shocks, and things you'll love and hate about different places, go to youtube.com/Wolters World. It's Wolters with an O. Or you can go to our website, woltersworld.com, or you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all at Wolters World. So hope to see you all there.
Yep, and I love you both.
Love you too, Ben. Thanks for having me back on, man. It's great to talk to you. Rob, always a pleasure, my friend.
My pleasure too, guys. And thank you for listening, listener. And remember, you can always contact me at travelmanpodcast@gmail.com. Travelmanpodcast.com is the website. And I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I'll see you next time. Or I'll speak to you next time.